In this tutorial, I want to show you how to use the solid editing tools, and those are the tools right here. They call them solid tools. Um, and really, we're not going to use all of them, but there's one in particular here that I think will come in handy. So I'm going to turn off my roof for a second because I want to look just at my building on the inside. And I don't have all of the interior walls yet. For example, I don't have this opening here where you go into that room or the other opening. And everything I've shown you so far is showing you how to just make openings, but I want to show you how to use the solid tools. And because I don't use them that often, when it comes time to start using them, I always have to practice and figure out what it is that I'm doing here with the tools. So before we get into the building itself, I'm just going to come out here on the side and I'm going to draw a rectangle like this. And then I'm going to type P for push pull, take that straight up like that. Tap the space bar, triple click, right click, and then make a group. And then I'm going to do or create another group like this, and I'm going to have it just go right through that group. And then type P for push pull, take it up, and let's just take it up about that high like that. And then space bar, triple click, right click, make group. All right, so those are the two objects right now, and notice how they're intersecting one another. And you use the solid tools here with solid objects. And remember, you have to make sure that when you select one of these solids, it gives you a volume. This one has a volume also. And let me just double check if my building is still a volume. I'm going to give it a click. And yes, it does have that volume. So this is good. All right. Now the solid tools, and let's do this. Let me move them here so we can see that a little bit better. And you have the first one. It says outer shell. It says it'll combine multiple solids into one. It's going to remove the interior geometry. So if I turn on X-ray mode here, you can see how the solids are, one is going through the other. But if I click on this shell, outer shell, give that a click, and then it says to select the first solid. So as I hover over the object, you'll see that it's going to give me a number 1 here if it finds a solid. If it doesn't find a solid, it just isn't going to give me an option. But because these have volumes, that means that they are good solids. I can go ahead and click on this solid group, number 1, move away from it, and then it says to select the second solid. So I'll pick this one. And when I do that, now I can click off of it. Actually, not, yeah, click off of it and see what it does. It removes the inside there. So it's a way of not having to kind of delete those interior lines. This just brings them together as one and cleans everything up for the user. So that's good. So that comes in handy. Let me undo that outer shell, and then turn off that display mode. Tap the space bar and we can continue. Then you have this one where it says intersect, where it will combine multiple intersecting solids, only keep their overlapping geometry. Let's see what this one does. And I'll turn on the X-ray mode. So I'll pick that. And then it says go ahead and select the first solid. I'll pick this one. And then I'll pick the second solid, that one. And notice what it does. So let's look at this again. Intersecting. It will combine those multiple intersecting solids. And it's only going to keep that area that overlaps, that volume. So this is what was left. In other words, it's kind of like leaving behind what the other one, the outer shell, seemed to have taken out. So good to know that one. Let me undo that also and then start over. The next one over here, this one is the union. It's going to combine multiple solids into one, but it's going to maintain that interior geometry. I'll do this one real fast. Give that a click, and then click on this one, and then click on this one. So they become one, and then I click away from it. And I don't see much of a difference between this outer shell because it did clean up the inside there. So if I look at it again, it says combines multiple solids into one, and okay, looks good. So that's a good one to know. Let's undo that. Let me click away from it. And then we have this one where it says subtract. And this is really the one that I use a lot. And it says it will subtract one solid from a second solid and then keep only the end results. It gets tricky. I've had to use this one, and sometimes I'll pick the wrong solid as my first one, so I have to redo it. So here we go. Let's say that I want to take this long uh, solid here that's cutting through the cube, and I want to just see what it leaves behind. I want that opening or that gap on the inside to be left over. So I'm going to click right here where it says subtract. And when I click on it, it says select the first solid. But before I do that, let me just hover over this for a second. And it says subtract one solid from a second, keeping only the end result. So I don't know which one it's going to keep, if it's going to keep the first or the second. So I'm going to click on this as my first, and then I'm going to click on this as the second. And I guess that's the one I wanted to go with. So I'm thankful I got that right the first time. Let me tap the escape key and then the space bar. So this solid, this is the one that I really use a lot because it takes away that opening. So that was subtract. Let me undo that. And I want to take a look at the others real quick here. This one is a trim, and then this one is a split. So we'll do these real quick. Subtract one from the second, keeping the first and the resulting subtraction. So let's try that. So pick this solid first as number one, and then pick this as number two, and then tap the space bar, and let's see, what did it leave behind? So it looks like it generated that new shape in there. Let me take this solid and move it out of the way. No, no, it didn't. I see what it did. So what it's doing is just letting us know that it used that solid and it created the opening, but it left behind that solid. So that's a good one. That's nice to know. Um, I'm going to undo that and undo that again. And then the last one here, it's a split. Splits the two intersecting solids. It's going to preserve the overlapping geometry. Let's see what happens. Give that a click. And then the first solid I'll pick is this one. Second one will be that one. And then I'm going to pick this one. And let's first of all, let me tap the escape key, space bar, then select this and type M for move out of the way. So notice what that one does. It did take that area away, but it also left this behind. So I'm going to move that, and it separated that. So interesting things that happen with these solid tools. I've not used all of them. The one that I use a lot is this one, the subtract. So I just wanted to show all those to you real quick. And then I'll go ahead and get started and apply that to my building. So let me turn off the X-ray mode, and then all the solids here, I want to delete them. Oh, and by the way, watch this. To delete that, you see how I've got the selection tool right next to that. I have a lasso select. So watch me click on lasso select, and then I'm just going to do a lasso or create this lasso around these objects like this. Release the mouse key, all selected, and delete. All right, and then I'll go back to my selection tool and continue. So here's the opening that I want to focus on. And it's starting to get a little tight, so you have to, learn to navigate around these objects. And I'm going to turn off my base so I can focus on just my set of walls here. Now, in the past, what I showed you is how to generate the opening right here within the wall. You double click on the wall, and then once you have that surface, you can copy lines over, draw lines, and so on, and then do a push-pull. But what I'd like to do, let me click away from that, is actually just generate a solid that would represent my door, or rather my door and frame opening. So real quick, I'm going to turn off my solids, and I'm going to turn on a plan. And let me also turn on my walls here for a second. And I didn't draw them in there. Oh, wait, but I drew this one, but I already put that one in. Anyway, you'll have your openings. I apologize that I don't have mine. They should be there. And what I was going to do is I was just going to draw a rectangle, kind of tracing over the opening, just like I would have done over here. So give me 1 second. Let me just check this for a moment. Yeah, I already put that in there. So, okay. So let's say I had my opening there, which I don't. Um, and it will be, let's see, it's a 2'6" door, I believe. Let me just check my distance because I'm going to do something here. If I have 3'6" there. So I believe it is a 2'6" door. And then I've got 2 inches on either side for the frame. So 2'6" plus 2, that would be 2'10". So watch this. I'm going to draw a line and I'm going to start here, go across, and I'm going to make this 2'10", enter. And then I'm going to take it over this way. And it doesn't matter how long as it is wider than my wall thickness. Right here, take it over. I'm going to constrain to green so that I can lock into this endpoint and then click here. All right, so that gives me the width that I want. Then I'm going to push pull this. So P for push pull. I'm going to take this up. Now the height of the door is 6'8". Plus 2 inches is 6'10". So I'm going to make this 6 feet 10. And if you wanted to, you can just round to the nearest whole number. You can make it 7 feet. You'll be all set. It doesn't matter. And it's really interesting where I put it on the ground down there. Oh, that's right, because that is 0, 0. So I need to move this up if I want it to have the correct height. Let me just double check something from this endpoint to that endpoint. 6'10". Okay. Let me make a group out of it first. So triple click, right click, make group. And then when I make the group, I check the volume. So it has volume, which means it's good. And then I'm going to move it up from this endpoint up, constrain to blue axis, and let it line up with that intersection. Okay. I'm going to turn off the plan view. And I'm also going to turn off the walls. And I'll turn on my 3D walls. So notice where I've placed it. Now, I did want this centered on that opening, so let me fix that. Sorry, I'm just zooming through here like this. Okay. So it's not necessarily cutting through yet. So I'm going to move. I'm going to pick this midpoint, let it find the midpoint. I think it's somewhere here. There we go. And I'm just going to let it line up with the midpoint there. Let's see if we can find it. Too far. Actually, let's pick this midpoint on the inside. That's the edge, but I want the midpoint. Too far that way. Bring it over in the other direction. Midpoint. Got it. Okay. So see how that's lining up. And I can do the subtract if I wanted to right now, but I like for it to overlap just in case these two are not exactly coplanar. Sometimes that happens in SketchUp. So I'm going to move it. Let me just come up here to the top like that. And then I'm going to type M for move. I'm going to bring it over, more or less centered, like that. So now that I have that centered there, I can now go ahead and use my subtract tools. And again, I'm the first to admit I sometimes get this wrong the first time, and it's all right. If I do, I'll just undo and start over because the order in which you pick does matter. So I want to subtract. And if I read this carefully, it will subtract one solid from a second and keep only the end results. Okay, so I believe I need to pick the smaller one first. So I click on subtract. I select this solid first, and then I pick this one as my second. Done. And that worked. So it looks like the one that you want to take away is the first one that you pick. So I've got that taken care of. Now, I have an opening across the way. So if I had thought ahead, which now that I am, I'm going to undo the subtract. I'm going to tap out, escape key, spacebar, and now watch what I'm going to do. And hopefully this works. I'm going to take this solid, double click on it, and press pull that face all the way across here. And it doesn't matter how far I go. I'll just click right there. Tap the spacebar, tap the escape key, and then I can see that it's going through both walls. So now I'm going to try this again. I'm I'm going to go with subtract. I know I have to pick this solid as my first one, so give it a click. And then I'll pick this as my second solid. And notice how it's taken away the entire, the two openings there, both of them, all at once. Click away from it, tap the space bar. There we go. All set. It looks like something interesting happened here at the bottom. You see that? So I need to investigate that. I got to make sure that everything is going to be all right here, because when I selected it, look at what it says, type undefined. It doesn't have a volume. So these are little things to watch out for with SketchUp. So I'm going to double click, and then I'm just going to type E for erase. I'll erase these extra lines like that, and this one. And then escape, spacebar, click away from that solid. And now I'm going to click on it, and it has a volume again. Good. I know for some people that use SketchUp, it's not a big deal, but for me, and with architectural modeling, there is some precision involved here. And I'm always keeping an eye on these solids to make sure that they have volumes. Okay, so that's a door opening. Now, what about a window? This will work. I know I want a window. Let's say, for example, I want a window opening right here. Now, I don't know exactly where, but I kind of know the dimensions of the window. I want to show you something that I'm going to do here, which, yeah, this will help. I'm going to draw a line, and I'm just going to start the line out here like this. And let's say I want a window that's 4 feet wide. So I'm going to type in 4 feet like that. And then I want this window to go up. So I'm going to constrain to the blue axis. And I want the window to be 5 feet in height. So I type in 5 feet, enter. And then I want to bring it across, let it constrain to red, use the right arrow key, click here, and then give it one more click. And I have the opening that I want. And then I type P for push pull. And as long as I give this a dimension, a distance that is wider than the wall, I'm going to be okay. So I'll make this 12 inches. So 12, enter. Spacebar, triple click, right click, and then make group. And when I make a group, it has a volume, I can proceed. And now it's easier for me to say move and pick it from this endpoint and just line it up with this endpoint here. And I can play with this geometry, and I could say, you know what? I want to move it up so it lines up with that opening. Or if I didn't have an opening there, I type in a distance, and let's say 2 feet to match that one. And then I can move it away from the corner in this direction. And whatever distance I want, I'm looking at my distance in the lower right corner. And I would say somewhere around 12 feet. So I'm going to type in 12 feet, enter. So I'm placing the solid where I want the opening. Now it's still coplanar. And I want to make sure that it does subtract everything. So I can move it forward a little bit like I did before, or I can tap the space bar, double click on this group, come over to this side, type P for push pull, take that surface and bring it out like this, escape, space bar, click away. And then that's where I want the opening. And you can kind of study and go, okay, that's where the opening is going to be. What does that look like? Maybe I want to make my window a little bit wider. Okay, double click on that solid. P for push pull on this side. I'll bring it out 2 more feet like that. Tap the space bar, click away from that group. And that's where I want the opening. And then I'll simply subtract. So click on subtract. I want to pick this one first because this is the one I want to subtract. So give that a click and then select your walls, click on that, and you have an opening. Now you'll notice that the edges do not match in terms of the color. So let's look at that real quick and see what's going on. So I'm going to tap the space bar, and then I will double click on the group so I can go into the group. And then I'm going to take a look at the walls. So first of all, I'm going to pick this outer one. I select that face, And you'll come up here to the entity info and it says the face, the outside face, the one side has this material applied to it, and then the other side has a different material. Okay, looks good. I pick this face, and you can see how the same material is applied to both sides. And then I come over here to this face, and you can see that it says nothing is applied. It doesn't have a material. So that's okay. I will try to paint it all again and see if that solves the issue. So I'm going to click off of the group. I'm going to come over here to my materials. I'm going to click on the sample paint. I'm going to sample this paint, and then I'm going to apply it to the group again and see what happens. Done. And see how it took on that color property. So SketchUp didn't know what to do if, when I did the subtraction, should it apply the paint, should it not? And it basically defaults to nothing. So that works out fine. It's just a matter of going back in there and making the modifications. So that's the solid tools that we use here in SketchUp, and they come in real handy, and use them as needed to continue modeling your building. I'm going to take it up here now and dock it and just have it there, so it's handy. Tap the space bar, and then before I exit or end a session, I always like to turn everything back on to make sure that it's moving in the right direction. I still have some windows to add. I've got some doors I need to add, but it's making progress. Let me turn on my roof here. Okay. And then I would still have to add the materials to my roof, but that's okay. So that's my building so far.